Okay, so welcome everybody to our legislative briefing on preserving family childcare spaces, the need for facilities infrastructure and business support. My name is Ericka Erickson. I am the Policy and Program Officer for Early Care and Education at the Low Income Investment Fund. And I'm also the coordinator for Build Up California, a collaborative that is being launched this year to sustain, increase, and improve the number of the early learning facilities in California. And it's under this project that we are hosting this legislative briefing with the goal to educate various stakeholders, especially elected officials in Sacramento and the staff of various agencies that work with family childcare providers in our state, but also this webinar is being broadcasted on Facebook, and many other participants, a broader public was invited, including staff of our representatives in Congress. So welcome everybody, and thanks for being here with us. And today we are hosting this event in a webinar mode, meaning that we are having all the participants are muted, and they can only share their questions or comments using the Q&A and the chat box. If you would like to use interpretation, you can do so to Spanish using the button on the bottom of your screen. And si necesita de interpretación, por favor, presione el botón de español en tu pantalla. Ajá. Y que Olivia Beltrán está interpretando este evento. So, it's my pleasure to have with me some leaders of early care and education, family childcare providers, especially that will be part of a panel discussion. So they will go first, and they will be talking with us about their experience on the topic of the need for facility infrastructure and business support. So with us, we have, as family childcare providers representing this panel, we have Corey Santillan, Director and Owner of La Bamba Preschool. We also have Tanya Wiggins, Director and Owner of the Wiggins Family Child Care. We have Yessika Magdaleno, Director and Owner of Little Flowers Family Child Care, but also she is the Director of the Child Care Business Institute and board member with the California Family Child Care Association. And we have Miren Algorri, Director and Owner of Little Blossoms Child Care Providers United member, and a member of the Early Childhood Policy Council Workforce Advisory Committee. I will, thank you. And so these are the family childcare providers representing the event today, but also we have Christine Padilla. She's the director for Build Up for San Mateo County's Children, and she will be moderating our panel. And then we also have Chris Bajarias. He's the program officer for early care and education at LIIF, my colleague. And we have Olivia Barrow. She's the policy officer at the Low Income Investment Fund. So welcome everybody. It's my pleasure to be with you here today. And today also we have supporting us, we have moderating questions is Andrew Garley, our National Director for Early Care and Education. And so this is a team effort here. So this event, as I mentioned, is being organized to not only educate the stakeholders and elected officials and decision makers about how the family child care providers are functioning in this new environment, but also to promote an exchange of information. So we are going to hear from these amazing leaders and entrepreneurs Their stories related to how they have been operating under these new guidelines with COVID pandemic. And then also what kind of supports they were able to access so far, and what obstacles they face as to access these supports, meaning PPP loans or grants and other types of support. So, and then we are going to also discuss some policy solutions that are being implemented already by some counties and even in our state, but also what's going on at the federal level with child care relief and child care bills and acts that have been discussed at the federal level. And then we are going to also talk about what LIIF, Low Income Investment Fund, is doing with many partners across the state and the whole country, as we partner with many other stakeholders and organizations. And Chris is going to be talking about what kind of products, financial products, and then also support systems that we are providing to family childcare providers. So with no further ado, again, the interpretation is available in Spanish. Olivia Beltran, thank you so much. Please, let's be mindful that we have interpretation, including myself. So let's speak slowly as maximum as possible so she can keep up with us. So with no further ado, I would like to invite Christine to start our panel.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Ericka. And again, I'm Christine Padilla, and I'm the Director of Build Up for San Mateo County's Children. We are a 3-year-old initiative in San Mateo County. We're a cross-sector collaborative initiative aimed at preserving, growing, and sustaining and improving childcare facilities. Why our name sounds familiar to Build Up California, actually, one of the ways Build Up California began was by a series of regional meetings we were hosting in the county around the governor's master plan and the budget and other policy issues that were coming forward. And from there, we realized that we needed to continue to meet and we needed to continue to work together to advocate on a state level on all of these important issues. So through Build Up California, we're excited to work with all of you, and we're excited that Angie and Ericka and LIIF have helped kick it off so in such a great way. To tell you a little bit about the format coming up, as Ericka had mentioned, we will start with our family child care providers. We'll hear brief presentations from them, about 6 minutes, to allow time for a Q&A session. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat or use the Q&A feature. We really do want to hear from all of you. We'll have about a 10-minute Q&A, and then we'll head into our policy portion, where we will also have a Q&A following that. So please do the same and jot down all of your questions. But I know we're all anxious to get started, so would love to kick it off with Corey. Welcome.
Hello, Christine. Thank you for having me. My name is Corey Santillan, and I am the owner and program director of La Bamba Preschool. La Bamba Preschool is a Spanish bilingual program in San Francisco. We've been serving families since 2007, and we are located in the Ocean View neighborhood with a large number of low-income families. So, thanks to parents' involvement, the dream of equality is a reality at La Bamba Preschool. High quality education, it's accessible for all. Over 50% of our student body is on the scholarships and subsidized tuition. We are a home-based program with a large license capacity. The support that we have received from LIIF, we received a grant in 2012. So we expanded from a small license to a large license. And so since we first opened 13 years ago, we have been operating at full capacity and always with a long wait list. Our business has been greatly impacted by the current pandemic. We had to do many modifications. Previously, we had 12 children between the ages of 2 and 5 years old, enrolled every day, Monday through Friday. When COVID hit San Francisco, we found ourselves struggling finding PPE and emergency essentials necessary for operation. So we had to close in-person preschool and immediately pivoted to virtual preschool while we learned more about the new reality that we were facing. Many families lost their jobs and cannot afford childcare. So we have also lost some students, and we see families that still want to send their children to school, but they don't have the funding, they don't have the means, they don't qualify, and some have applied for subsidies, but they still don't have anything that will help them with the cost of tuition. And so let me see, can we, at La Bamba, we have made modifications. As you can see here, we move our school to outdoors learning to minimize the risks of COVID. So unfortunately, when we started applying for PPP loan, we could not get the loan through Chase. And so then we call, I called Pranda Wolf a LIIF. And with their support, we were able to receive the PPP funds and the emergency grant to aid with the loss of revenue. So thanks to this help, we have been able to reopen for business. The additional expenses we incurred to comply with COVID-19 forced us to increase tuition rates. This cost that we had to pass on the families who are already under a tremendous financial burden to pay for childcare. We currently work with the San Francisco Office of Early Care and Education to help families acquire subsidies to pay for childcare. Preschool for All provides $20 per child to enroll 4 years olds. The cost of daycare ranges for $120 to $180 for 6 to 8 hours of care in San Francisco. This is not enough. Childcare is the framework to our infrastructure. How can our economy recover when this truly essential industry is being decimated? The repercussions of this will impact generations, and we are concerned about our children's mental health and the stress that the families are going through. In an effort to support our families in a safe manner, we created a La Bamba community pool to aid older siblings with distance learning and allowing parents to look for work or go back to work. A family with more than 2 children cannot keep their heads above water with the current conditions. Parents have to work from home and they have their children at home. Doing distance learning is very difficult. So we opened space for older siblings to come to our facility so we can support them with their physical distance learning because the schools are closed. So La Bamba modified the structure of our program to an outdoor learning classroom to minimize COVID-19. So now we are faced with toxic air quality due to local wildfires in California. As you can see, we modified to outdoors. And so now with the air quality in San Francisco, we can be outdoors. So we need to get more air purifiers. So it's been very difficult, very stressful, having to figure out how to support the children, the families, and so we are lacking resources. This was just last week. We were, the air quality was still safe to be outdoors, but then the next day it was in the purple red zone. So we are asking our elected officials to support childcare and early education, we need funding to support our working families. Working families are suffering with the stress of uncertainty, a stress that is passed on to these children. Our buildings are not equipped for this kind of emergencies. So, even with 5 air purifiers was barely enough. Thank you for allowing this. And here we have some parent testimony because parents were struggling and having difficulties at home. They don't know how to teach their children, so it was very difficult.
Thank you so much, Corey. We really appreciate you sharing and all of the efforts you've put into place. Next, we'll hear from Tanya Wiggins.
Hi. I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. Give me just a moment here. Okay, I think I got it. So my name is Tanya Wiggins, and I live in Miren City, California. I've lived here for 49 years. I'm a mother of 6, and I have 5 grandchildren. I opened my daycare back in 2009, mainly due to the lack of being able to afford childcare. And, that was some years ago, and the cost of childcare has only gone up. And then I also realized there was a need in my community for childcare for kids. So that was my main reason for getting started with my business. My daycare pre-COVID, I was at full capacity. I had 5 kids on state subsidized funding, and I had 5 private paying families. I had 2 full-time staff and 1 part-time staff, including myself. Life was good, business was good, the kids were happy. And then March 16th, 2020, it just seemed like everything turned upside down with the COVID. I had to close my daycare immediately with just next day, sorry guys, can't have any kids at daycare. I had to lay off my full staff. I was unable to provide parents that had essential jobs due to the state mandate for those couple of weeks. I lost 100%. Every last one of my private paying families are gone, and they've not returned as of yet. I lost about 60% of my state subsidized families because not all of them were essential workers. I was unsure of how I was going to pay my staff, how I was going to take care of my personal bills. So yeah, that was something to try and get through. So trying to survive COVID and with the lack of funding, with the lack of kids in the daycare, there were a couple of things that I was able to do. One of them was a small business grant from Facebook, believe it or not. Thank you, Facebook. I had to apply 3 times, mind you, but I was finally granted $2,500, which was extremely helpful at the time. I also maxed out every credit card that I had just to be able to pay my staff, even though they weren't here. I felt horrible that they weren't working and they weren't getting paid, therefore they couldn't take care of their households. I was able to get the PPP loan, and I got funded through the Redwood Credit Union, which I've been a member for years. So I think the process was a little more seamless than trying to find a financial institution that you don't already have a relationship with. There was some back and forth with the rules because, this was all new. People weren't quite sure what to do or how to calculate and things like this. And I'm hopeful that this loan will turn into a grant, the forgiveness grant, and they're still working on the application for that. So I've got a couple of months and I'm worried about it. I'm worried about having to repay this money if they can't get the rules together. And then there was a really interesting funding source that I came across called Kiva. So Kiva is a crowdfunding interest-free loan. The repayment starts 6 months after you're funded. And And in order for my application to be approved, I had to get 5 personal friends and family to loan me $25 each through this platform of theirs. Once I was able to achieve that, they put my profile on their global platform. And within 2 days, I raised the $8,500 that I requested from them. And that was a tremendous help. Just like I said, in keeping my staff paid and just trying to keep up with the mortgage and things like this, all the while not having kids in care. So now here we are, not really post-COVID, but in COVID. There's a lot of hand washing going on here, a lot of sanitizing. Is my time up already? We're cleaning the daycare frequently. Okay.
Go ahead.
About every 30 minutes to an hour, we're wiping down surfaces that the kids touch frequently. Trying to keep little people 6 feet apart has been the biggest challenge, and having them wear their masks. So we're kind of trying to make a game out of the mask still. But it's, you know, it's difficult, but we're trying to get through. I found that when I was able to open after that initial 2 weeks, there was no toilet paper, there was no Lysol, there was no mask. I couldn't find any PPE to open safely. So that was one thing that was also a challenge, just trying to get the doors back open. I have had to think outside the box and kind of go with the flow of how this COVID is taking us. So I opened a distance learning pod here at my childcare. I've only got one subsidized preschooler here who's 3. I've got 7 other school-age kids that they do their distance learning. They're all in different classes. They're all at different schools. So that's been a challenge. And it's just me and one other person here popping on from Zoom to Zoom to Zoom, trying to keep up with schedules. Meanwhile, we're chasing a 3-year-old around. So I've had to kind of shift the way I run my business just to make ends meet. I feel horrible charging parents to have their kids go to school. Education should be free. It's a public education system. Once the kids go back to school, which, you know, we're all hoping that'll be soon, as long as they can do it safely, I'll be left with 1 child. And then I'm afraid that I'm going to have issues with money again, just keeping staff or bringing my full staff back and taking care of my personal bills here. My vision is to be able to have the resources to bring my full staff back, having the PPE to safely run my daycare, continuing to keep all the kids in my care happy, healthy, and safe, and getting back to full capacity and doing what I do best, which is taking care of children. Support needed. There's my little Superman kid. I need a superhero to help me navigate this COVID. I need help with, if we are going to be needing to be outside, maybe shading for outdoor learning. My yard is a mess of sorts. It's a play yard, but you know, if we need to move the kids outside, I have not been able to do that. I need an outdoor wash station would be helpful. And it would be nice to have more grants available opposed to loans, because in 6 months to a year, when all of this money from these loans are due, I honestly don't know if I'll be able to keep up with the payments, especially if we're still going through COVID. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, LaTanya, and thank you for showing us how resourceful you are and how you had to work so hard to navigate all of these funding streams. I know that's extremely difficult, so I'm glad you were able to share that information. Next, we'll move on to Yessika Magdaleno. Welcome, Yessika.
Hi, how are you guys? I'm gonna share my screen. Can you check the internet for me? Can you see my screen? Okay. So my name is Yessika Magdaleno. I'm a family child care provider. I am the director of Child Care Business Institute. I am with the California Family Child Care Network. And I also have and run my Little Flowers Family Child Care in the city of Garden Grove for 19 years. And today I'm here to talk to you about how family child care providers need your help. So, greetings to all of audience. After attending, okay, so a few weeks back, I attended a presentation for the centers, and I was so amazed, you know, about the presentations they did. They have everything so prepared, state-of-the-art facilities, reports with future projections, numbers of children that are going to serve, and so many other things that I was not aware and were included. And I said to myself, how are you going to do it, right? All I knew was that family child care providers needed urgent help to continue serving the kids in our communities because the current situation for us is not good. So help me God, here we go. According with the Kids Data.org, we have 26,173 family child care providers in the year 2019. CDSS data show a total of 24,457 family child care providers open in September 8, 2020. According to DSS, this facility has lost 9 children at their care, according with them, giving us a total of 220,113 kids in family child cares. These are the numbers that I checked yesterday, and they're where we at right now. Family child care is very important piece in the early learning and care facilities infrastructure and policy. It is urgent we have these conversations to help you understand why family child care providers need to be included. We need funds to continue working in our facilities. We need partnerships. We need inclusion on all the decision making for family child care that sometimes we're not included or asked. The first point that I'm going to talk to you guys is school-age kids not going back to school. Family child care providers, again, without the help to take care of these challenges, What does that mean for us? I don't know if you have any idea what this means for us, but it meant a lot of work for us. It made a lot of changes in our facilities. We have to adapt our facility for this group of students. And what do we mean adapting? So some of us needed to buy new equipment, right? Because according to the health department, we needed to be outside most of the time. So we needed to purchase equipment to be outside with the children. It meant that in summer we will not have our field trips and we will be here because many of the places that we visited were closed and we were not able to bring those children to those places and get a little bit of break of the heat, right? Well, that didn't happen this year with many of us. It meant spending money because we needed to purchase all this equipment that we needed to provide the services, not only for the childcare kids that we have, but for the special group of school-age children, right? And many of us family childcare providers have our own children, so we have to hire our own teenagers to help us out with all the extra work and extra hours that we have to work. Because as my court worker before me said, there's different schools, different times, different schedules for lunch. So in order for us to provide those services to the different schedules the children had, we needed to have extra help. How we're gonna have it if we didn't have the funds to do it? It was not easy. You're gonna see here. This is a family child care setting in San Diego, and they let me know that they spent about $5,500 in implementing all these things that you see here to be outside in the area, in the outside area for the children. They have to purchase a sink, they have to purchase the water, and they have to purchase this container to put the napkins. And so it will be more easier for the children to get what they need outside in the patio area. I'm gonna show you a video.
Ok, quiero mostrarles nuestro nuevo salón de clases. Nuestros niños tomando sus clases. Tenemos nuevo equipo. Se pintó todo el salón. Terminamos de decorar. Estamos listos para recibirlos. Aprendan algo nuevo en este año y en su guardería de todo el tiempo. Adiós.
This classroom was specifically created for the school-age children. This room was not there. They have to purchase the equipment and they have to purchase everything that you see there so they can fulfill the needs of the school-age children. And this is the outside area that they also make some implementations.
Quiero mostrarles en esta obra el patio de nuestra casa donde los niños juegan fuera. Está su playground. Y algo nuevo que es instalar esta caja que les muestro. La estación que tiene para lavarse las manos, siguiendo todas las instrucciones. Está para que sus vasos para que tomen agua fresca y estén completamente seguros. Adiós.
And as you see there, he still needed to put some shade in the So he still needs to purchase the part, I think they call it tents, that's how they call it, to cover that area when it's really, really hot. But just the changes you see there, it cost them $5,500. This is another provider who also was creative and create these separations in her dinner table, right? And she did it with what?
About 1 more minute, sorry.
Yeah, what you can do better. This is another provider who was working. This is before and this is after. So she created individual spaces for children. And I have to run because I have a lot of things to say. So these are other providers that were creative and made changes to fulfill these needs. The second point we want to talk about is when providers close due to COVID-19, right? And what we want to ask you here is to help us as the governor to please sign the bill that is already on his desk. It's SB 820. That bill will help family childcare providers to get 14 days more than the 10 days that we already have. The third point is extended suspension for eliminate family fees. This is also included on the bill that is sitting on the governor's desk, and we would like to ask you to please call the governor and to help us have him sign the bill to help these families. The fourth point is the extended suspension for the requirement that parents sign the attendance sheets. We are being asked to, as parents, to sign the attendance sheets in order for us to get paid. And this has been a very difficult task to do because some parents, they don't want to come and, take a risk. And the last point is the unhealthy air quality. So as you can see in my prior slides, you see that many providers have invested creating outdoor programs for the children. However, the unhealthy air quality has forced many providers to bring the children inside doors. And so now with no guidance, we are been doing our best, to have these children inside. Many providers don't have air conditioning. Even with fans on, the heat is oppressive and inside. I'm running as fast as I can. Fans, no ventilation, and extended period of time indoors goes against the regulations, right? So how can you help us? Here are the 5 points that how can you help me? Or how can you help all the family childcare providers in the state of California facing all these issues? Please take a picture, help us make the phone calls, call the governor, call your friends. This is the site in Spanish. You guys can take a picture on the Spanish one and also have other providers help us make the phone calls and everything that we need. And I want to thank you. Gracias.
Thank you, Yessika. I know so much really good information, and we loved seeing the details and all of the things and updates you did for summer and now heading into fall and winter. So really appreciate that. We will share all of the slides with all participants. So don't worry, people will make sure to see all of your asked information.
Yes. Thank you.
Of course. And next we have Miren Algorri.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you, Build Up California. Thank you, LIIF, for having me, and thank you, attendees, for tuning in. My name is Miren Algorri. I'm a family childcare provider. I have been running my large licensed family childcare since 1997 in the city of Chula Vista, California. And I'm here to join my fellow sisters, Corey, Tanya, and Yessika, and talk about the challenges that family childcare providers have faced throughout the years, but more than ever through these pandemic and the wildfires. First, I'd like to share with you guys about CCPU, Childcare Providers United Union, and my role in the union. And I am a member, and I am a leader. I'm a captain. So I have been involved with the union. I'm a second generation family childcare provider. So my mother was one of the pioneers here in San Diego. And I would like to highlight some of the things that the union has done before the pandemic and throughout the years. The CCPU sponsored AB 378, which paved the way for childcare workers to unionize. And we won our union election this year. And so we created something that had never existed before in California. So the union has been created by providers for providers. And this union gives us a seat at the table, which is so needed. And we see it now more than ever with the challenges that we are facing. Due to CCPU, providers like myself and 3 other CCPU members were appointed by Governor Newsom to be a part of the Early Childhood Policy Council as part of the Workforce Advisory Committee. That means that we, family childcare providers, get to have a say on we get to have the provider's perspective and voice being a part of the master plan. The final master plan would include the feedback from my fellow providers. These wouldn't have been included if it had not been by our union. Not only we are getting involved with long-term planning, but CCPU is also helping California's family childcare providers get through this pandemic. CCPU worked tirelessly on no cuts on the providers' rates, the stipends, and Yessika mentioned it on the Senate Bill 820. We have been able to get payment regardless of childcare attendance, clarification on variable schedules, alternative payment program protection for those providers who are caring for children who get scholarships through the alternative payment programs, and payment for providers who are like my fellow providers, myself, assisting children with distance learning. And as a provider, I can tell you none of these would have been possible without the union. There's no way that a provider could have won any of these on our own. So the challenges that we have faced, and if you don't mind playing the slides, Ericka. I guess she'll get to it, no problem. So the challenges that we have faced went from having a thriving large capacity with 12 children in attendance during the day and 2 after-schoolers. From a thriving business, we went down to having 1-2 children in attendance once the pandemic hit. At some point, we had 0 attendance because more of 60% of the families who we are providing childcare services for lost their jobs. And some of them start working from home. So we had, as children are slowly but surely coming back to our childcare, some of the challenges that we faced was slow connectivity. So we had to upgrade, and that was, you know, we were incurring in some financial cost. And what we did in order to keep that physical distance to mitigate spread and provide a safe environment for the children is that we moved to the outdoors. So I see that Ericka is trying to reconnect, and so once she comes back, she may be able, hopefully, to play the PowerPoint. So the challenges in this, I took some pictures this morning that I put together quickly so you guys could see how our math center became a station for a distance learning student. And so how we are keeping, we like to call it like the physical distance to keep everyone safe, but socially and emotionally, we believe that we should be closer than ever and be supportive of each other, other families and the childcare providers. So like I said, one of the challenges, the very first one that we faced as we started providing distance learning was connectivity, which was something that we already took care of. we brought the classroom to the outdoors. So we had our working stations set up in the past, but now they are more noticeable, so the children know that they can work in certain areas, and so just respect personal space of the other students. So those are some of the changes we've made. A little picnic table that we had outside is now a working station for one of the distance learning students. So the challenges have been there. In my particular case, I did not have to apply for PPP because I have been able to get paid for the students, whether they had been attending or not. And I did not have to apply for PPP. However, I did support, and I have been supporting other providers on that journey of applying for loans and grants. Together, CCPU and other organizations here at the local level in San Diego, we were able to allocate $25 million for child care providers across the county. And so a large licensed provider is able to apply for a $3,500 grant stipend, in small for $2,750. So we're crossing our fingers that everyone who applied gets those loans. And that's the kind of support we would like to see, not only at the local, but at the state and the federal level. We were able and honored to meet with Senator Warren about 10 days ago, and we talk about support for essential workers, family child care providers. We are essential workers. We are supporting other essential workers so they get to work. I like to see family childcare providers as the wheels that keep the community, that keep the economy of the state of California going. So these wheels need to be taken care of so we can continue to support the community. These last slide, you know, by myself does not mean alone. So our children are working on their stations by themselves, but it doesn't mean that they're alone. When we are indoors, we use face masks. When we're outdoors, the teachers continue to work face masks, the children don't. So going back to the challenges and the support, like I said, we were able to allocate that money that's only for San Diego providers. We would like to see this replicated across the state, across the nation. The children deserve it, the providers need it. We are asking for support. Like I said, CCPU has been great at getting us to speak with legislators, with policymakers, with elected officials at the local, state, and federal level. And we want to continue to work together so we can bring more resources to the providers so we can best serve the children. My vision is to see more public investment put into childcare, especially into family childcare providers, and of course, friends, family, neighbors, and centers, so we can best serve the families. So public investment is crucial because we are offering public services to the families. As my fellow providers mentioned, we want to go outside because of COVID-19, but many of us are forced to remain indoors because of air quality. So support is needed so we can continue to thrive. We're asking for help so we can continue to serve the families, the children, and the community, and so we can overcome these challenges together. And that's what I have to share today. And just, we need support. Let's hold each other's hands and get the support and the help that family childcare providers, so our business can thrive, but more than anything, children across the state can thrive. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miren, and sorry about the technical difficulties. Lots going on in California. But we're gonna go ahead and move forward. We're gonna skip the first Q&A and bundle it all at the end to make sure that we have time for our policy update. So Olivia, welcome, and we'd love to hear from you first.
Great, thanks, Christine. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here today. I am Olivia Barrow. I'm the policy officer with the Low Income Investment Fund. based out of Washington, D.C. So I have a very brief policy update to share today. I'm sure that you've all seen in the news there's very little to report at the federal level since Congress has unfortunately not been able to reach a deal on a next stimulus package. And the outlook does not look particularly promising over the next couple of weeks and months. But let's start with just a quick recap of where we're at and what's been done so far. So you'll all remember that back in March, Congress did pass major relief legislation called the CARES Act. And of course, that provided $3.5 billion in funding for the Child Care and Development Block Grant, as well as $750 million for Head Start, and then created the now infamous Paycheck Protection Program that many of you were able to take advantage of. So all of that funding was critical, of course, but nowhere near enough to support the childcare sector, especially in light of the challenges that providers are facing and in which we've heard more about today. So I think it's clear to all of us that more federal aid is critically needed and should be an urgent priority. And fortunately, both the House Democrats and Senate Republicans here in Washington have released their own proposals for the next phase of coronavirus relief spending. But unfortunately, as is often the case, they are still miles apart on what they think the size of the package should actually be. So House Democrats are pushing to spend significantly more money than Senate Republicans, and they have not been successful in reaching a compromise agreement yet. But the good news is that, throughout all of this back and forth among lawmakers, childcare has received strong support. So that, that's positive. There is recognition that this industry is critical to the economy and desperately needs support. But the bad news is that, we're not going to get anything done on childcare if Congress can't first reach an agreement on the size or the scope of this overall bill. Because obviously they need to agree on what they're going to do before they can start negotiating on substance and move that forward. And on the specific of substance, I'm sure you're all aware that the childcare industry is asking Congress to provide at least $50 billion in emergency relief. I think it's been some positive displays of support and messaging in the media around this request for $50 billion. It does seem that recently there has actually been some bipartisan support for $15 billion for the childcare sector. So that's 15 as opposed to 50. The $15 billion was, originally proposed by Senate Republicans and has been carried along in a few other recent bipartisan proposals. So I share this just to really say that, this is a positive display of support and a source of momentum that, we should absolutely jump on and, make the case that 15 billion is a good starting point, and we need to get that number as high as possible and up closer to 50 billion. So that leads me to just really quickly say, what should we be doing at the federal level? I think the most important thing is to keep amplifying the tremendous need for federal relief. And particularly the devastating economic consequences we will all face if this sector does not receive immediate support. And you all have done a very good job today of making that case, so thank you. I think we also need to keep up the pressure on the amount of money that Congress is going to provide. So of course, 15 billion is a strong starting point, but the market needs significantly more, so we need to keep hammering that point. So I encourage everyone to reach out to your members of Congress and really reiterate the urgent need for resources and the need to get that overall number up to 50 billion. It would be great if anyone has particular connections with Speaker Pelosi's office or Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy's office, but any outreach is good outreach. So I encourage you to take the message far and wide. And I think with that, I'd turn it over to Ericka for a California update.
Yeah, so briefly, sorry again about the technical issues, but I'm glad I joined on time for this update that if the federal level, nothing happens there, not much can happen at the local level, right? So the pressure now is at the federal level, but as Yessika already shared, There is a bill, a budget-related bill on the governor's desk with many of the change that we need to benefit family childcare providers. So definitely let's ask him to sign that bill. And thanks for everybody that worked together, many advocates to make that happen, all the change that needed. We had 263 million that allocated for infrastructure funds last year for the field that was reverted to the general fund to address the crisis that we have now. And we need more investment in that piece of the budget for family child care providers, as we heard today. So as we move forward in years to come, we definitely have to work together to reinstate that. But meanwhile, there are organizations like the Low Income Investment Fund doing a lot for providers and working with stakeholders at the local level. And Chris is going to share a little bit about what we are doing to support family childcare providers in that aspect of infrastructure and business support. So I'll share these slides and we can have Chris sharing that information. Chris.
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. It's really great to be here. Thank you so much to Build Up California for inviting me to today's event. And also thank you to the educators that we've heard from for today for sharing a bit about your programs. It's always so great to hear from providers as your stories are so important. I'm Chris Bajarias. I'm a program officer with the Low Income Investment Fund. And our ECE team here in San Francisco administers several unique grants to childcare programs, as well as provides technical assistance on facilities and business supports to individuals and organizations seeking to create or enhance childcare slots in San Francisco. You know, for the past 6 months, we've worked directly with educators throughout all of our geographies at LIIF. So that's the San Francisco Bay Area, New York, and DC, to assist educators with applying for the Paycheck Protection Program, applying for our own grants, as well as connecting folks to other resources. At the beginning of the pandemic, it was really essential for LIIF to get immediate critical support to small childcare businesses, most of which are owned and operated by women of color and immigrants. We quickly launched and administered ECE emergency operating grants, as well as COVID-related renovation repair grants in San Francisco. All of these funds are being contributed to essential expenses like rent, mortgages, payroll, and modifications to their program to help prepare for reopening. You know, many thanks to our funder, the San Francisco Office of Early Care and Education, for their partnership and guidance throughout that whole process. As Ericka has advanced the next slide, this is a table that provides data on our grant programs and summarizes LIIF's COVID response for family childcare providers. There's a lot here, and I won't walk you through everything, but I'll pay your attention right now to everything that's in red. You know, that first red line demonstrates our Bay Area County specific grant deployment and the total throughout all of our counties that we've been working in. And all of these are emergency grants that we deployed in collaboration with the Silicon Valley Community Foundation. We also have, I've also listed Give to SF, COVID-19 Response and Recovery Fund, which extended a FCC emergency operating grant to about 230 providers in San Francisco. And these providers, for the most part, are all receiving public funding and are serving mostly low-income children. LIIF also has administered a San Francisco COVID illness grant, and these funds were earmarked for FCCs who had to close due to a positive COVID test, so where the coronavirus has affected them personally and they had to close. And then I also included some of my colleagues' work in Washington, DC, and New York. All of that to say, we've been on the ground running, doing a lot of grants and working with providers at a very intimate level. The second chart there talks about the San Francisco COVID renovation repair grants. So these are grants that we're providing to help providers with modifications to their program to apply the new and updated regulations and prepare for reopening. All these modifications are all to ensure the safety of children, staff, and families. So as Ericka brings it on to the last slide that I have, none of this is going to come as a surprise, as you've heard a lot about these items from our panelists. But I wanted to go through some of the most common facility modifications that we're finding with our work. Number one being appliances. So what we've been able to do is really help upgrade or replace appliances, including refrigerators, washer dryers, and dishwashers. In San Francisco, many FCCs rent So our funds have been able to supply fixed equipment for sanitation, like washing toys, high temperature dryers, for clothing and things of that nature. Air purifiers, we're seeing a lot of requests, clearly, for portable like HEPA or other air purifiers for various different rooms, as well as outside. Not just for COVID, but now in the Bay Area with horrible fires that we've experienced, the air quality is so terrible. So air purifiers are really, really important. The third thing that we're seeing a lot of, and these are in no particular order, are hand washing stations. So things for sanitation. We're funding a lot of hand washing stations, both indoors and outdoors. So these can be both portable as well as funding the installation of fixed stations, both outside and indoors. And lastly, outdoor classrooms as a sort of generic theme. We're seeing that it's so important to bring the indoors out as much as possible and create learning environments outside. So we're funding a lot of things to the physical upgrades, things like shade, sinks, and other improvements to maintain social distancing. And the last thing I want to say really quickly is that LIIF does offer a series of training opportunities on various topics. And in fact, next week, we're bringing in a nationally recognized ECE environmental design consultant. It's a lot to say there. And he's going to discuss the importance of bringing the indoors out, especially during the COVID pandemic, and help providers think about how to better utilize the materials that we are funding. And I can share, my email is on the next slide. I can share the invitation to that workshop with folks if they're interested. And thank you so much for your time. And it's been really, really, really great to hear from you.
Oh, thank you, Chris. And again, we are going to share all these slides with the participants and all that register for this event. Unfortunately, we ran out of time, and but for questions and answers, a discussion. But definitely, we had a lively discussion on chat and Q&A. And thanks for everybody that participated today in this event. We will, all the questions that were shared that we were not able to share during this presentation today, we will share by email with you. We will share the slides too, and then information about, for example, how to apply for grants, some of the questions that came up, and also information about other workshops or similar workshops for providers about how to get support. We have one coming up this month about redesigning your facilities and how to make it easier for you. We will share that with a follow-up email. And then we have a series of workshops or webinars with more information about how financial institutions are supporting or should support family childcare providers. So stay tuned to that email. And I would like to thank all the providers today that joined us. It's so inspiring to really work with you to advance early care and education in California. Thanks for everything you do. Thanks for your dedication. And I'm sorry about the stress that you have to pass through, right? It's heartbreaking. But together we can pass through this storm and come on the other side stronger with a better system. We have to believe in that. And together with you and with other stakeholders, especially our legislators, right, we can make that happen. So thank you so much. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Olivia. Thank you, Miren. Thank you, Corey, Christine, Yessika, Tanya, Angie, Olivia. Thank you so much for making this happen. And enjoy the rest of the day. And I hope to see you again in another event. Thank you.